The eye-splice. Hello everybody, welcome back, and in today's little exercise what I'm going to show you how to do is put an eye-splice in the end of the rope. And to be honest, an eye-splice is stronger than putting a loop knot in the end of the rope. If you say, for example, a bowline or something like that, an eye-splice is far stronger. And for those of you who are interested, in the description below I will put a link to a chart to show you the different strengths of different knots and splices. So anyway, in today's little exercise, what I'm going to do is show you how to tie an eye-splice. And as you can see here, at this end here, I've just cut it off. It's just a demonstration piece to show you. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to create the eye-splice. I have put whipping on the end of my 3 strands there. That is not part of the video, but what I will do, once again, in the description below, I will put a link in to how to put in common whipping, and on the end of this rope I've put sailmaker's whipping, and there'll be a link in the description there. So anyway, today's little exercise is we are going to put an eye-splice in a rope. So anyway, let's get knotting. So as you can see, I've got my rope laid out in front of me, and the other thing that I've got that I may or may not use, it all depends on the lay of your rope. If you can actually untwist your rope and get your fingers between the lay of the rope there, so as you can see there, poking my thumb through, I don't need to use the Swedish fid, which is this one here, but what I will do in the process of making our eye-splice, I will show you how to use the Swedish fid, or just to poke a hole in, we can use our marlin spike as well. So anyway, let's see how we get on in actually making this. So as you can see here, I've got my rope laid out in front of me, and in this end of the rope I've put some masking tape on to prevent it unraveling. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually form an approximate size of the eye that we want to create in our rope. So and this is what we now need to know. Let me just make that a little bit smaller. So when we're actually thinking about creating the eye of our rope, the first thing that we need to do is consider what size we want the eye to be. Now the next thing you need to consider is that this piece here has to be long enough to actually weave its way down the upper rope for the following. This is the rules. This is a sort of standard rules for when you're actually splicing the eye of a rope. If you're using natural cordage, you want a minimum of 3 tucks, and you'll see what I mean by tucks, etc., as we go along with this. So you want to, for natural cordage, you want a minimum of 3 tucks. If you're using a synthetic cords, which are usually slipperier, you would then need a little bit more, because you want a minimum of 5 tucks going down this piece of your rope. And you'll see how all this comes together in a little bit. So anyway, if your eye-splice is for critical weights, for example, the minimum for natural cordage is 3, for synthetic is 5 tucks, but if it's, like I said, if it's for critical loading, etc., give yourself a bit more and put some more tucks in, and it just makes it that little bit more secure. And like I said earlier on, in the description below is a link to a strength of knots chart, which also includes the eye-splice. Right, so looking at my work here, we're only going to use a smallish piece. I want an eye-splice approximately, let's see, so we want an eye about that size. Perhaps let's give it a little bit more, and then I need enough here for 3 tucks. And so what I'm going to just give myself a little bit more. So there we go. That's the approximate size that I'm going to use. So now that I've done that, the next thing I need to do is at this point here where so we've got our eye like that, I need to mark off this point here with some masking tape. And so just at that point there, I'm going to get hold of some masking tape And you don't necessarily need masking tape. You can just throw yourself a constrictor knot around this section here, but I'm going to use masking tape. And so here we go. Just wrap my masking tape round, pull it nice and tight. There we go, nice and tight. And then I've masked that area off. So now, if we look at our rope here, the top end is masked off, and then at the point where we're going to put our eye in is also got a piece of masking tape on it. Now the next thing that I do is, at this end here, I need to unravel my strands. So where I've got my masking tape, I'm just going to take that off and then just unravel my strands. But what I want to try and do is just don't let them come unraveled. So I'm just going to unravel them gently like so. So that one's already got a bit of masking round, and then just put a little bit of masking tape around the other two just to prevent them unraveling. So take that one, put the maskers round, bring it round, there we go, and just make it nice and tight so that it doesn't catch. So that one's done, and then just that little one there. And go and just work it round so it's nice and tight. And it doesn't matter if it's messy, because there we go. Okay, so now we've got our 3 strands have now been masked up, and the next thing I can do is just unravel them. So I'm just going to unravel them, and we're going to unravel it all the way to that point there. So just quickly do that, and just be gentle with it, because what you don't want to do is have your 3 strands unravel as well. So now this is the point now where we have our 3 strands unraveled up to the masking tape at this point here. And the next thing we're looking for is the following. What we're looking for is that the center strand is the top strand at this point. So in other words, if the center strand is at the bottom, make it so that your center strand is at the top, and then your upper strand here is to the left of that, or let's hold it that way. So the central strand is at the top, and the other 2 on either side are going off left, right. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. That's the key to this, is the top strand is in the middle. The next thing is we bring our ropes up together. Now you can, if you want to, also mask at this part of your loop so you know where your starting point is, but I know where I want to come in, so I'm not too worried about that. So here we go. That is the size loop that I want to create in my rope. So the next thing that I'm going to do is just get hold of my middle one. My middle one is the one we're going to be working with first. And what I want to do is open up the rope. So the middle one's here, and I want to open up this strand here, the top strand here. I want to open that. So just show you how a Swedish fid works. I pass my Swedish fid underneath that strand and open up. Let's just open it up a bit. There we go. Open it up and pass my Swedish fid through. And because it's tapered and hollowed, what's happening is it is opening up that strand there more and more. The harder I push it in, the more it is opening it up. And what it allows me then to do is get hold of this strand here, which is my top middle strand, and pass it down through that hollow that's been created there. Just push it through, and you can see there now I can just easily push it through. And what I'm doing now, as I'm pulling it through, I'm just making sure that the twist in that strand is remaining, because I want it just to look nice and neat and tidy. And then just pull that strand through until it comes up nice and tight and butts up nicely there. And you just want to twist it a bit and twiddle it so that it just comes up nicely. And now you can see here I've put my first strand through that rope, or that strand has gone underneath that strand, if you see what I mean. The next thing I do is I get hold of my left hand one, And I can see here now that what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over this one here that we've just passed this one under, and I want to make a gap on the next strand along at that point. So I'm just going to open up a hole there with my marlin spike and take my left hand strand and pass it through that gap there. And so now that I've passed it through, and you can see there, because my rope isn't very hard lay, I can get my fingers through there and my cordage through quite easily. And once again, pull it through, and as I pull it through, pull them both through now and get the twists, get it twisted again, pull it up nice and tight so there's a nice twist in it, because we just want it to look neat and tidy as it comes in. And you can see here now that my rope, or my second strand, has now gone through at that point there. Now the next thing I want to do is so that's the middle one, that was the middle one, that was the left hand one, and so the right hand one, or sorry, the middle, top, bottom. So the bottom one here now, what I do is I turn my rope over, and what I'm looking for now is the 1 point. So I can see here now that it wants to go round the back of this one here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to open up my rope at that point there, open it up, and then pass that end through the hole I've just created, pull it through, and there we go, and keep the twist on it as you're pulling it through. Just make sure you pull it through nice and neatly. Okay, and there you go. We've now pulled that one through, and that was basically the hardest bit. And now what we're looking for is the following. What I want to do now is have an imaginary line at this point here. This is only to check that we've done it correctly. So if I have an imaginary line at this point here, and as I turn my rope, I can see that each of the 3 strands are coming out level to that imaginary line. And then when you look at it, if you just look down on it, you can see whether or not your imaginary line is running square. And that's what you're looking for. The rope, these 3 strands exit this rope here at exactly the same place around the rope. So we now know they're exiting exactly the same place around the rope, and that was the hardest bit done. We've done the hard bit, and all we need to do now is just weave these 3 strands down our rope like so. So the next thing, I grab the first strand nearest to me. So the first strand is this one here. It's coming out at this point here, and there is a strand running underneath it diagonally. And what we want to do is we want to go over that diagonal strand and come out at the one underneath it. So take it over the first one and under the second one. And then once again, there we go, pulling it through, twisting as I'm going along, because we want to keep that nice twist in the rope. It does sometimes, depending on what rope you're using, it does sometimes untwist and look a little bit ugly, but don't worry too much about it. The idea is you're putting a working eye into our rope. So that's the first one we've just done. So we've gone over that one, under that one, and come out at that point there. So if we move round to the next one, we can see now that the next one is coming out above this strand here, running that way. So we want to go over that one, underneath that one. So all I do now is get my porky little fingers in there, open it up, and pass it through. And so there we go, another one's been opened up, get the twist in it, make it look nice and neat and tidy, and there we have it. That's the second one done. And you can see now those 2 are coming out at exactly the same point around the rope itself. And so we get to the final one, and I can see here now that the final one is coming out at this point here. It wants to go over the first one, underneath the second strand there. So I just make a hole in there with my marlin spike or a Swedish fit if you've got one, and then pass the end through, twist it as I'm doing it, because I want to try and keep a nice regular pattern. You know I'm fanatical about things being neat and tidy. So anyway, and then what you can do now is just go around all of them and pull them up nice and tight. Pull them up nice and tight. Give it a roll under your hand, roll it up again, and you can see here now we've got a lovely eye forming. I was going to say forming, but we've got a lovely eye in our rope, and we've now done 2 tucks in our rope here. So I take it down a little bit more again, and we just do exactly the same as we did before. It's really, really simple, really, really easy. So this rope or this strand is coming out here. It wants to go over one, under one. So take it over and then open up the eye from the one underneath, pass the working of that strand through, not the working end, but the working end of that strand, pull it through, twist it to keep that rope laid the same, and there we go, we've pulled it through. So that's one done. Go round to the next one. Here's my next one coming out. So it's coming out there, it wants to go over that one there, underneath that one there. So just make a gap there with my spike, post the end through, twist, and then pull up nice and tight. And then we can see now here, the final one here is coming out at this point here. So over, under that one there. So just let me get my spike through. Try not to catch the fibres of the other ones as you're doing it. So take it over that one there, pass it through, and then we have it. Okay, and so there we have it. On this one, natural fibres, 3 tucks is the minimum, but I have now got myself a really strong eye splice in my rope. And you can see there now, that looks quite good, yeah? You will find, you know, if you really are a perfectionist like me, you do find that these fibres here do spread slightly. However, don't worry about that too much. And the next thing you would do, just to tiddly this rope work up, is because this one is a natural one, I've only used 3 tucks. The next thing I can do is just cut my fibres or cut my strands shorter here and put some whipping round it to make it look nice. Or if you're using a synthetic rope, you can then cut it with a hot knife which melts the ends, and that should be enough to secure it. Or if you want to, cut it and put some whipping on the ends as well. So anyway, that is quick, simple and easy to tie eye splice in a rope. So once again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you hated it, yeah, do the usual thumbs down. But please do tell me why you hate something, okay? And I can always try and improve it later. So once again, thanks very much for watching. See you again next time. Bye-bye.